Tonight, President of the Methodist Church passes away. Health Minister reveals more on teenager's death. And elections rules expected by month's end. Very good evening. The President of the Methodist Church in Fiji, Reverend Tukilikila Wangairatu, has passed away. General Secretary Reverend Tevita Nawandra said the church was formally informed this morning by members of Reverend Wangairatu's family. Reverend Wangairatu had been chosen to head the church 6 months ago. Reverend Nawandra only said that church executives were now awaiting the arrival of the traditional delegation from Reverend Wangairatu's island in Moala in Lau. They will then discuss the finer details of his funeral arrangement. Meanwhile, government has extended its condolences to the family of the late Reverend Wangairatu as well as the Methodist Church community. A statement this afternoon said government was shocked and saddened by the sudden death of the Methodist Church head. The Health Ministry has completed its investigations into the death of an 18-year-old boy at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital last Thursday. Minister Dr. Neil Sharma today told Fiji One News that by the time Lawrence Anthony was presented at hospital, not much could be done and he succumbed to dengue fever. Myron Williams with the details.
Investigations into the confusion over the diagnosis and cause of death of 18-year-old Lawrence Anthony were completed today. Dr. Neil Sharma says investigations have shown no evidence of medical negligence.
Yesterday we called in all the consultants and specialists to sort of make sure that there was no evidence of any medical negligence. And this morning I had the privilege of meeting the father who turned up, and I can understand his grief and his concerns about having lost his son.
While sympathetic, the minister says there was not much they could do when Anthony was brought to hospital.
The extent of the disease was probably not realized by the family, and when he did arrive on our doorsteps, his blood pressure was very low. We take into account the fact that the paramedic did find a pulse, and the breathing rate was satisfactory when they left the home. But when they did arrive, his blood pressure was unrecordable.
Anthony had dengue fever, which led to organ failure. After the post-mortem and extensive tests by specialists, the cause of death his family was seeking has now been confirmed.
The cause of death was pulmonary hemorrhage at the end of the day with consumption of platelets. And there was end organ failure all throughout the body, and it is viral in origin.
Dr. Sharma says that his staff did all they could to help 18-year-old Lawrence Anthony when he was taken to the CWM hospital. Myron Williams, Fiji One News.
Meanwhile, the Health Ministry says although the sharp increase in the number of dengue cases has put more pressure on their already strained resources, they are managing it well. With more than 4,600 confirmed cases since October last year, Minister Dr. Neil Sharma says the death rate is very low.
Over 4,600 confirmed dengue cases over the last 4 months, and the figure continues to increase. This obviously puts more strain on the resources and manpower at health facilities around the country. And while the ministry says they are coping, Dr. Sharma says doctors are feeling the pressure.
Doctors are seeing anywhere from 120 to 150 patients a day, and that equates with roughly 3 to 4 minutes per patient. And if we're not careful, we can possibly make mistakes. You must realize that doctors and nurses are human too.
Doctors and nurses are also falling ill with dengue, which isn't making things any easier. Meanwhile, Dr. Sharma says health officials diagnose on a case-by-case basis, and those who are quite serious will be tested with a dengue test, which is quite costly.
Then you have the cases where you may not be sure. If you're not sure as a doctor, then you may want to do a test. Or there's some unusual features about the infection. Then there's dengue case. Each dengue case costs $25 a test. So of course, when we will get inundated with a large number of tests, then we will have to source additional tests from our international partners or purchase it on the international market.
Officials are calling on the public to clean up their surroundings to prevent further cases and loss of lives, adding they are managing the best they can.
If you look at the stats, it also shows that our management so far has been pretty good. We've had a few deaths, yes, but our death rate is 0.2%, whilst in other centers it can go up to 2.5%.
This 0.2% is 3 deaths out of the 4,600 plus confirmed cases, 2 from the Central Division and 1 from the North. Myron Williams, Fiji One News.
A 52-year-old man is admitted at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital after sustaining burns following an argument. Police spokesperson Atunaisa Sokomori said the man, who is a taxi driver, was engaged in an argument with a 45-year-old man who in the process poured hot water on the taxi driver. Investigations continue. Ahead in the news, new learning center for Nanuku settlement. And find out more about a media self-regulation survey. Hello again. The rules governing national elections in September will be made public by the end of this month. This was revealed today by the Attorney General, Aya Said Kayum, who says the post of the Supervisor of Elections should hopefully be filled soon. The supervisor will be appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister.
The electoral rules will specifically govern the way the polls in September will be carried out. This will include the exact date of polling, scrutineers, counting, reconciliation and other aspects pertaining to the actual elections. And this is already drawn up in its draft form and should be finalized by the end of the month.
The draft copy, very much in its final form, will be sent to the Electoral Commission, as you know, who has requested for a copy of it for their input and their review of it. And we've had discussions with the chairman of the commission, and we've said that they would turn it around within a week, and thereafter, upon its finalization, we should then have it gazetted.
The Attorney General says there's no restriction now on political parties to campaign, adding they do not need the electoral decree to do so, as this is specifically for the elections.
It does not in any way preclude any political party from going out and campaigning now, going out and having the meetings now. As you know, many of them are already holding seminars, etc. So for some of these politicians to come out and say, oh, we will only make a decision once the electoral decree is put in place is a superfluous statement.
Under the Constitution, the appointment of the Supervisor of Elections is to be done by the President on the advice of the Constitutional Officers Commission in consultation with the Electoral Commission. But without a COC, the appointment will now be done on the advice of the Prime Minister, Commodore Warenge Mbain-Marama. And the list of applicants are now with the Solicitor General.
I haven't even seen the list of people who have applied. That, of course, will be given for assessment, and then the Prime Minister, as the Chair of the Constitutional Officers Commission, will then consult the Electoral Commission. As you know, that there's a requirement under the Constitution that there needs to be consultation between the Constitutional Officers Commission and the Electoral Commission before an appointment can be made. And we hope to obviously do that soon.
Yesterday, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, Shen Ban Yang, told Fiji One News they are also waiting for the position to be filled to get on with preparations for elections. Myron Williams, Fiji One News.
The learning centre that was opened at Nanuku settlement today is expected to provide much needed academic assistance to students there. It's a project of the Foundation for the Education of Needy Children in Fiji, or FANS Fiji. As Revive for All reports, there's hope that this will ensure that those in disadvantaged communities do not lose out academically.
For a child to succeed academically, a sound, conducive environment is a plus factor. However, for children that live in informal settlements, studying or being able to have access to a good environment is not always the case. This is what the Foundation of the Education for Needy Children Fiji, or FANS, is trying to address, to provide tutoring for students in informal settlements.
The learning center is for our beneficiaries. Our beneficiaries are not, they live in homes that are not conducive to doing homeworks and doing extra studies. So we are setting up this learning center to get them in, and we'll be running them twice a week from 3 to 5 every Tuesday and Thursday, so that they can come in and get remedial classes.
The launching of the Nanuku Community Learning Center will provide children with a safe haven to get extra help from volunteers in their studies. The classes are being facilitated by retired teachers, tertiary students to volunteers from abroad. The project started last year with 30 students and the outcome has been quite positive.
Say as a success was most of the children were completing all their tasks on time and they were completing all their tasks, and even we had some children whose tasks were taken up to the Ministry of Education, so that was a big victory for us. And as we assessed our children through their term reports, we noticed that their grades average were increasing.
The remedial classes will commence this Thursday and will be held every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. FANS Fiji is sponsoring 1,130 students this year and welcome volunteers to assist them fulfill this cause.
Wow, we're just inviting volunteers. If any that lives around here would like to come and help. This is for assisting the neediest of the needy, the poorest of the poor children. We believe in that cause of giving them education as a means of giving them a better shot at life.
Reviver for all, Fiji One News.
The Water Authority of Fiji have fixed a leaking sewage pipe at Rewa. It had been causing problems for those living at Grantham Housing Estate. Residents claimed that despite complaints to relevant authorities, only quick fix solutions were undertaken. However, after we highlighted the issue on Fiji One News last night, this was done today. Officials from Water Authority of Fiji were there repairing the pipe this morning. According to residents, the problem has existed for years and only worsened 2 months ago due to the deteriorating condition of the pipe. The stench became quite unbearable for residents in recent days. Findings from a UNDP-backed survey has been unveiled to members of the Pacific media. It was conducted by the head of USP's journalism program, Dr. Ian Webber. The survey posed the questions on whether a self-regulation mechanism could work for the region. There has been mixed responses to the proposal from various media outlets. The survey found that majority of the Pacific media rated public awareness and training very highly. PINA President Moses Stevens says any regional mechanism needs to first work through national media associations. Dr. Webber says partnership with the government is critical to the success of any self-regulating mechanism. Veteran Tongan media publisher Kalafi Moala says there will always be a tension between the media and government and that any mechanism will never be perfect, adding there will always be differences. The survey proposed several models from a national media self-regulation mechanism to a regional mechanism as well as a regional and national mechanism. The proposed self-regulation mechanism will be put to the PINA board later this week when it holds its AGM in Noumea in New Caledonia. The customary chiefs of New Caledonia today gave their blessing to the Pacific Islands News Association to establish a working relationship with indigenous media outlets in the country. 16 chiefs from the country accepted a traditional presentation from the PINA board at their customary senate at Noville. PINA President Moses Stevens told the chiefs they are very much aware of the plight of the Kanaki people and their struggle for independence. He added PINA is now inviting all indigenous media outlets in New Caledonia to become members of the regional organization so that their voices can be heard in the Pacific. The President added their decision to bring the PINA Summit to Noumea is a way to show that the indigenous Kanaki people are part of the Pacific family. The chief said they felt humbled by the PINA gesture. An agreement signed between a global conservation organization and local communities in the Northern Division targets the protection of natural resources. WWF Pacific and the communities in the Mali district are now working together to safeguard their natural resources. 40 villages are part of this arrangement.
For these people of the Mali district, the safety and rights of the Ngolingoli is now protected with a Memorandum of Understanding signed with WWF South Pacific. The MOU would facilitate the continued protection and sustainable management of the Dokowata Ngolingoli, which is a source of livelihood for the villages of Mali district.
To help us to foster a good partnership in good faith that will be able to build up the capacity of the Mali Development Committee and also help us to be able to monitor their progress. One of the major issues also is helping them to be able to monitor their fishing grounds and their protected areas.
Many changes have been experienced which has resulted in the decision to sustain their fishing areas.
They've seen so many drastic changes and that their fisheries is not what it used to be. So they would like to be able to do something to make it better.
WWF South Pacific has signed a memorandum of understanding with communities in the Mali district. The signing also includes the handing over of high-tech fish warden equipment to the Mali Development Committee to aid the district's fish wardens' efforts to curb fish poaching in the Ngolingoli.
Include binoculars, mobile phones, torches, high beam torches, life jackets, and a lot others that we have provided, and reflectors, those things that they can be able to use.
Also, WWF South Pacific hopes the MOU will get other districts to come on board with similar agreements.
Hope that we will have successes out of this project to be able to implement and replicate in the other districts.
Over the next 1.5 years, both parties will work together sharing information with regards to the Lokovata Ngolingoli. It's agreements such as this which are expected to protect and sustain our fishing grounds for the future generations. Reviver for all, Fiji One News.
Stay with us. We'll take a brief look at what's happening around the region up next. A mysterious castaway who says he spent 13 months lost at sea is due to return home soon. Jose Salvador Alvarenga is flying from the Marshall Islands back to El Salvador. He has been in hospital and treated for dehydration and malnutrition since he was rescued on January the 30th. CNN's Miguel Marquez reports.
Finally, headed home, Jose Alvarenga taking the short route, a plane to his home country of El Salvador.
I know that people have survived that long as well, even longer. This is amazing, and we are very proud that we were able to host this visitor to our shores.
Before leaving, Alvarenga asked for a picture with Marshallese President Christopher Lowiak. This island nation only too happy to oblige its now most famous visitor. Alvarenga's departure, much different from his arrival on Thursday, June 30th.
After Mr. Alvarenga's boat came ashore, he still had one more walk to go. The atolls are a series of islands. He landed on one not unlike that was completely uninhabited. He heard a rooster crowing on the next island over, and at low tide, he simply walked across.
Alvarenga, wearing tattered underwear and brandishing a knife, surprised villagers on the tiny island of Ibon. They fed him pancakes, gave him clothes, and communicated through a mix of pictures, charades, a Norwegian anthropologist speaking a bit of Italian, and others who knew a little Spanish from the TV show Dora the Explorer.
Hola, soy Dora.
Still, there is some skepticism about his story. Jerry Kramer spent 3 days lost at sea in 1969.
As far as birds, well, there isn't any birds until you get very close to land. And turtles, we didn't. We have turtles in the Marshall Islands, but I've never heard of a turtle coming up and bumping our boats.
Alvarenga gifted his boat to the couple that found him. Found in the boat a turtle shell and a large seabird, its foot tethered to the boat, presumably a future meal. The bird is now living with the couple on Ebon. Alvarenga only has a few hours to go before his 13-month round trip of nightmare proportions comes to an end.
And remember, you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website at www.fijione.tv. You can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. You can also get news headlines directly to your mobile phones. To subscribe, just text SUB space FTV News to 777 and you can get your news and sports headlines via SMS. Charges will apply and you can view our terms and conditions on our website. The University of the South Pacific launched 2 new 3-dimensional or 3D printers. USP officials say this will help them in maximizing the use of technology for learning, teaching and research. The printers cost around $50,000, prints object materials into 3 dimensions.
The 3D printer prints in 3 dimensions. So you have the length and the width and the height. And the moment you print in 3 dimensions, you have real objects coming into picture.
USP's Vice Chancellor and President Professor Rajesh Chandra said this achievement is all part of its strategic plan. Professor Chandra said this was not only about leveraging USP's profile, but was about recognizing the potential of emerging technologies.
A signal that the university will invest in ensuring that it is leaping ahead more and more in utilizing all of the technologies that are available for our students, for industry, and for research.
We go to sports now with Myron, and more interest shown for Flying Fijian's coaching job.
That's right, Vili. With the post yet to be advertised, many have already started to put their hands up, and hopefully someone will be appointed soon, because World Cup is just next year.
That's right.
That's coming up. Also in sports tonight, Pure Tuai, new Cougar brand ambassador. And Continental Games planned for Pacific Islanders.